repeat. And it's just going to be how Eanix able to respond to this. Because Eanix, for being where they are, you're right, they are one of the mid teams, and they've proven themselves to get there. So, you know, they might just be able to bring something out today and take down the Giants that are infamous. So with that, I think that draft is ready. So without further ado, we will go into the draft.
Right.
What are you expecting to see here in this first matchup between Eanix and Infamous?
Well, honestly, in all of these matches that we've seen Baron play, for the first match, Baron played to great success with Aeon 222 on that Baron. For the second match, of course, we do see Baron, for the first series, of course, we do see Baron being picked up for the side of E8. And of course, there has Peel coming out from Glaive as well. But I still think that Baron should be the priority pickup and ban. If not, then Grace. We do see a Grace being banned out, then of course a Vox being banned out for the side of Team Eanix. I mean, Vox is in a really good place in the current meta right now, but then there are a lot of counters to Vox. We have that of Ringo, we have Idris, of course. Grace is a really good pickup. I'm not surprised if the side of Eanix do pick up that Lara just to help with the sustain, the extra sustain. Then again, Catherine is open with so much reliable CCs coming up from Catherine. I think both of these roamers would be a really good pickup.
And there's the Lyra that you predicted. Now, are we going to see a Baron pickup in response to that? You saw how well it was shut down by the Lyra using that Bright Bulwark after Arcane Passage to gain their Bright Bulwark on top, and even into the late game after having Echo able to Bright Bulwark twice and just lock him down completely. Are we going to see a Baron in response, or are they just going to let it go through? Because they can always ban it and, you know, take it away from the side of... on the blue team, I believe we have, is it Eanix?
Yeah, Eanix.
So it's Eanix on the blue, and we got Infamous on the red, who are going to go for that Glaive, which we saw picked up in the second matchup between between ASN and Elite 8 previously. And that Glaive pick is really just a good, viable flex pick. Wouldn't you agree in this current meta?
Definitely. I mean, like said in the previous match, Glaive, if you can peel hard for your main carry, he's a really reliable pickup. Whether or not you can play him weapon, you can play him utility, you can even play him as Captain Glaive. And in all three roles that Glaive can be placed in, he's a really strong pickup. So I'm glad Infamous is prioritizing on this Glaive, just expecting, even if they are not going to go for that Baron, if they are going to go for the Idris, Glaive does well against Baron as well. They do ban out the Idris, so I might predict either the Kestrel or the Baron will be picked up for the side of Infamous if Baron is not banned out on the side of Eanix. We do see
Infamous weren't the ones that had to ban Baron. It was left up to the decision of Eanix there, who decided to go for that Catherine ban instead. Perhaps this is playing into whatever team comp they're looking for. And we do notice from the previous matchup that Baron isn't, you know, completely invulnerable to counters. They are out there, but that Idris did get shut off, and Baron isn't picked up yet. He's still not on the table. They're going for the Samuel again, which is another strong pickup, and we know why, because it was banned out so much previously in those rounds, and we're now finally seeing him come onto the fold in this first match between Eanix and Infamous. So not a bad pickup either.
Yep, not a bad pickup. But for the side of Eanix, I hope they would actually pick up another mage just in response to that Samuel, just to outpoke that Samuel. I mean, if they are going to run the roam Glaive, then they have a very good frontliner that can output a lot of damage. At this point in time, although Idris is being banned out, and then you picking up the Baron, but then you must understand that Glaive can counter Baron in the early game if played in the jungle, and Glaive does a rather good job sticking to Baron after the Baron burns the first jump jet. And Baron generally, Glaive generally can just take up 2 of the shots, up to 3 of the shots, 4 even, and then just burst you down afterwards. So honestly, I think the Baron pickup, it's a good pickup. I mean, seeing with the Catherine being banned out, Baron is a likely pickup for the side of Team Eanix. And of course, we do see a Baptiste to close out the entire team comp. The Baptiste just to counter that Glaive. Ordain on Samuel, all Glaive does a very good job. I'm not surprised if the side of Infamous do pick up that Kestrel. They are going to go for that Ardent and will be putting that Glaive as a weapon in lane. I'm quite interested to see this matchup because Samuel he's a really weird hero. Usually when you have majors, their power spike is at level 8, especially that of Celeste when it has an increased range on her heliogenesis. But for Samuel, his power spike is somewhere around the level 2 when Drifting Dark is unlocked. When he has his Drifting Dark, paired with that Malice and Verdict, he can put up a lot of damage in lane. So, but then again, we must consider that Baptiste is being picked up for the side of Eanix as well. And Baptiste does a good job shutting all 3 of the heroes down on the side of Infamous. But then again, I think for this draft, Eanix looks really, really strong, and it's just down to execution, whether or not they can carry Baron into the later games so that Baron can just shoulder his teammates in the later part of the game going up against the side of Infamous.
Yeah, I agree with you. Is definitely, a bit pick and choose there. They decide to let that Baron go over to the side of Eanix, and it will provide kind of a window of opportunity if they manage to get to the late game. However, as you said, this Glaive is going to be a very strong pick up against that if he's able to land the crucial afterburns. However, I think in response to that, Eanix have a good defense with the Lyra, with the Bright Bulwark, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, Baptiste able to lock down that Glaive. So it's going to be a close one, I believe, for this first match, and both teams did well in this initial drafting phase. One hero we didn't really touch on, however, was the Arden. And Arden is still just a good all-rounder support, having that Vanguard to go in and get anyone out of any imminent danger, as well as having the zoning capabilities with the Gauntlet. So it's going to rely on how these team fights and positioning break out on this one. I think it's too tough for me to call here, but if I had to put my bets on a team so far, it will be Eanix for me.
Definitely. I mean, Eanix's draft just looks so much stronger with, their current lineup, and I'm not surprised if we'll lean for, Eanix. I agree with Die on this. Baptiste is just insane, especially in the early game, because Baptiste's, his spike generally he just needs, Baron might be caught up by QC right now, but then no, QC is just going to go to lane, just going to farm, but he did take the front camps on the side of Infamous, but they'll not bug them too much. Honestly, like you said, Eanix's draft just looks so much better on paper because you have Bright Bulwark, you have Ordain, but Infamous's draft is one thing. It's almost like a pick draft, right? You pick one person out, you pick one hero from the enemy team out with an afterburn on QC, and then you try to burst him down as hard as possible, as fast as possible.
Oh, it's going to be QC going in with the afterburn. Truffles does have the Imperial Sigil there to keep them alive, but just barely. It's going to be a bit of a while until that afterburn. So what I like about the weapon power Glaive as opposed to the Roam Glaive is you do have the damage once you go in there, but it's kind of hard to catch out Baron when you have the support of Lyra there, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. I mean, it is not impossible, but it's just difficult because like we just see now, Trophies is just healed back all the way up from close to death. So, if they are not committed to their engages, especially take Trophies down ASAP, then, they risk Lyra just healing Trophies back all the way up, and Trophies can just go back into the fight again at full health. Whereas on the side of Infamous, they do not have such sustain. The side of Infamous did actually ban out the Grace. With such, a heal heavy, a sustain heavy meta, and of course the CC heavy meta as well. The side of Eanix just looks like they've got the much better draft. Spaghetti in the jungle, Granted, Samuel is a really strong pickup in the current meta as well. Problem is that Baptiste can kind of just shut you down, especially when Baptiste, he doesn't quite require like a drifting dark. He doesn't need to move, and it's not a lot of skill shots. Granted, you have the bad mojo that you have to, you know, think about where to shoot, and of course your empowerment, your empowered attacks. But then, whereas for Samuel, your Malice and Verdict must hit in Drifting Dark while you're moving, and then of course, with that, you must hit a team as well, just to make your Malice and Verdict the most worth it for the amount of energy it consumes. And one thing, of course, I do understand the thought process that went into picking up the Glaive going up against a Baron is just for the early game gank.
Well, we'll have to see if Glaive is able to pick up the kill, which he is, as we find that Baptiste does get jumped on in the jungle as he tries to go around for a sneaky gank, and you can see Truffy's so low right then, but able to get the heal off from Rubber Monkey with the Imperial Sigil. But it's going to be Queasy going back in, able to pick up the kill. It's going to fall to Rubber Monkey, and Rubber Monkey going to fight it out with SNK. He does have the slow there, is going to try get the damage with the Imperial Sigil. It's not going to quite land, and you know, Arden always going to be tanky enough when he's low on health to kind of get out of that one. And they're not going to find the trade kill onto that Lyra, but you can see Lyra now with the Imperial Sigil once again, probably going to be able to stay in this lane as well.
Definitely. I mean, we do see trophies on this Baron being forced to pick up that very early reflex block, even before completing the first Sorrow Blade, the first tier 3 item. Angry died in lane trying to prepare for a gang, but QC is nowhere to be found. QC, yeah, so just to explain to the viewers out there, each team has got a 2 minutes pause time, a total of 4 minutes per match, just for them to sort out any technicalities issue. If not, then issues with their connectivity. Just looking across the builds, like I said earlier on, Trophies is forced to build up a very early reflex block just for, you know, QC on that Glaive, and that's gonna pose a problem for the side of Eanix, and that is because Trophies would lack the damage, right? Enough damage to just put out the amount of damage, especially when a reflex block is a 700 gold. It's not exactly a, no, sorry, it's not 700 gold, it's 750 gold, is it? 700 gold. Yeah, it's 700 gold, yeah. At 700 gold, that could have, you know, been a potential Sorrow Blade, and so, you know, so honestly, Trophy's damage is gonna lag out in the early game, but then when it comes to late game, the extra sustain is gonna help, the extra reflex block is gonna help against QC as a Glaive.
I agree with you there, and this might be their chance to jump onto Trophies as they follow up there, but you can see I Angry You Die with a quick rotation up. There's going to be the Oblivion dropping down onto I Angry You Die, keeping him asleep for just a second. I'm not sure if Trophies got caught out on that one, but it doesn't matter, as Infamous now going to have to back having a great kind of rescue and peel for the Baron.
Yeah, we do see QC already picking up a Sorrow Blade as compared to Trophies, who just picked it up now, but then sitting in QC's pocket is actually the very early, very early infusion. Probably they are going to push tower. If not, then try to get an objective, a single objective as fast as possible, just so not to waste this infusion if popped and when popped. Spaghetti has gotten the first tier 3 item for himself, is that of the Eve of Harvest, as compared to Angry You Die. Angry You Die is going to make out and put out a lot more damage with that Shatter Glass. But then what's going for Spaghetti is the amount of sustain that he has. Ooh.
It's going to be Trophies getting caught out, going very low. Rubber Monkey doesn't have that Imperial Sigil up quite yet, but I Angry You Die going to make the rotation up to lane, help that defense there. And this is why, man, they've got a very good team comp to keep Trophies alive, but they need to be careful if they stick around any longer. Glaive is going to have that afterburn up once again. You can see the fountain being used. It wasn't, I believe, Queasy would have tried to jump in there. He might even try again, because you can see him sticking around not too far away. There's going to be Ordained to try to keep Spaghetti locked down, but it's going to be up to bounce on out of that one. And you can now see Eanix, they've kind of regained to full health, and the push on Infamous has kind of been negated. And this is the thing about Infamous's attacking, or the team comp they have. They really have to go in and then get a pick out of it. They can't go into these long negated team fights.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, we have the Rubber Monkey just for the sustain, but we did see Samuel as well, Spaghetti and this Samuel. He did go down to close to half health or so, but then because of Corrupted Genius, he's just back to full health all over again before exiting the team fight. And the amount of poke coming out from Samuel as well, it's something that I don't think the set of Eanix want to stay in. Whereas for I Angry You Die, if you do poke out all three enemies, what happens is that you quickly use your empowerment, probably unnecessarily, especially when you need it. So that is one thing that's going for Infamous, especially if Eanix would not check and, you know, just make use, full use of the empowerment coming out from the Batiste. We do see the side of Infamous actually do push Eanix down to their tower.
And I would agree with you there. Oh, just hold that 4th second as Queasy going in with the Afterburn, able to pick off that Batiste. And this is why, man, the plays they need to make. You can see the Oblivion going down, but it's going to get blocked. And they're now going to push onto this turret. And that's the opening they needed. They should be able to take a turret with this. And if Eanix stay around, they're risking their lives. You can see SNK going so low there, but isn't going to fall quite just yet. They're even looking at this gold mine, I believe, but they might have to win another team fight before they go for that one. But you can see SNK healing up quite fast at the moment. But I do think it would be best so they go uncontested. You can see the flares going off over gold mine, just checking to make sure that Infamous aren't going for that to try and really sneakily push their advantage here. But so far, not much in terms of gold. It is slightly in favor of Infamous at 19.7k over to the 17.7k of Eanix. So Infamous have that as well as a 2-kill lead at 3 kills to 1 over Eanix here. So if they get this gold miner, it's really going to help start this aggression and the kind of I guess advantage that they already have is going to be even more. You see Arden going in with the gauntlet, but it's gonna get stolen anyway. Crucible is just so SNK can get out of the Ordained. So that's a very crucial item being popped on the side of Infamous. They need to be careful here to not go in too deep. You see Spaghetti, and you were talking about Spaghetti, in his case, being on the Samuel, does favor those long, drawn-out team fights. But I think for Infamous to get anywhere, they definitely need to go for those picks after diving in.
Well, definitely. I mean, but we do see QC on that glaive with Shiver Steel, not Shiver Steel, sorry, Poison Shift being picked out. Yeah, Poison Shift being picked out really early as well, going for that Tyrant's Monaco, whereas you do see Traffy's just picking up that tension bow. And that would mean that the side of Infamous just got so much more damage as compared to Traffy's. Just look at Traffy's CS. He's sitting at 96 CS. I mean, as compared to QC-wise, QC is a little better, just a little better. But I think that the gold mine still definitely did kind of even out both teams' damage, item pickups, and of course the goal difference as well, although Infamous is still leading. Spaghetti have already picked up that Broken Myth, probably working towards a Reflex Block, then afterwards a Frostburn also, or even just heavier Crystal if he needs like that, or Shatter Glass. I've seen Shatter Glass on winning Samuels before. That's a thing as well. We do see an infusion in the pocket of Traffy is probably preparing for a team fight. But there is one thing, like you said, although Spaghetti wants to have those long drawn-out fights, especially going up against a Lyra. Problem with QC and SNK is that as an Arden, you do not have, you know, that tankiness just yet. Granted, you have the healings and whatnot. Ooh, scout traps are being popped right now. They might be looking for this tower.
And you can see SNK going in deep. Once again, SNK not afraid to get in there. And he has to go in low quite a few times, but definitely trying to make something happen for his team there. Is sticking around with Spaghetti, and Spaghetti, you know, wanting to stay in those fights. However, SNK has to be like, okay, you need to just be a bit careful there. However, on the side of Eanix, what they're lacking is that good engage. Yeah, they have the Ordained, with which if it lands, then Trophies could follow up, but it can really easily be counter-engaged by the Afterburn coming out from that glaive. But, you know, if the timing is right, especially on that Lyra, they might have a chance. And you see the Ordained did land. There's no follow-up, however. Both these teams just kind of poking out at the moment.
Well, I mean, if Baron do jump in for a follow-up, the problem is that there is the risk of Glaive after burning you into their team as well. And that way, you kind of be damned. Because even if you do the follow-up, what happened then is that your main carry will be taken down, Baron will be taken down immediately, and there is no much point, and the side of Infamous can just push, because if Baron do jump jet in, and we've spoken about this before, if Baron do jump jet in, then, you know, he risks just dying out.
Yeah, and Infamous were the ones to start it, and they got it halfway, and you could just see the vision on the side of Infamous as opposed to the side of Eanix. I'm not sure about that gauntlet going out, but Angry Die is going to try to escape it, and then changed his mind, which might cost them. There's going to be the echo on the gauntlet, and Infamous not too keen on going into this one. They're respecting the damage coming out from Truffy's. SNK going to make the call to back, but it's going to be Spaghetti getting caught out on the Ordain, trying to fight this one out. He's putting out a lot of damage. There's going to be the Fountain, and they might be able to turn this one around as Queasy goes in with Afterburn, able to pick up an Angry Die. Now moving on to Truffy's, and there's the Imperial Sigil, but it's not going to even save Lyra. Truffy's so low right now with nowhere to run, gets caught off by Empowered. What is that one? Empowered versus... Not versus Judgment. Empowered.
Malice and Verdict?
That's the one, and that's why I have you here for me, Luxury.
Always here for you, mate. Always here for you.
And now we can see, look at just how much they took from those few kills. Infamous are looking for the game at 17 minutes in. They're only about 4k ahead in gold at 36.6 over to the 32.4k of Eanix. But they are looking for so much right now. They've had so much control of this game so far, and this is why they're the top team. You saw them get a turret out of that one, get the Kraken, and they only have the Anchor and the last two to protect them at this point. But if Infamous play this one well, and with that AoE damage coming out from Spaghetti, it's going to be so hard for Eanix to defend.
Well, yeah, and one thing that, you know, a lot of viewers and a lot of players do forget is that Glaive, whenever he hits a crit, his damage is AoE as well. And that is where Glaive is going to get all of his sustain from. We do see Ion Cannon being dropped just to fend off the invasion coming out from the side of Infamous, but I don't think that is just quite enough. We see QC going in, Ordain is being popped on QC.
It looks like Infamous so far a good push. Kraken's down to half health, however. They need to make something happen now. You see the ultimate coming out from Angry Die, but it's not going to catch out anyone as it gets blocked. And there's going to be the response. Angry, you're able to make it out there, but Rubber Monkey still in this front line. Infamous at this moment going for turrets, but they need to consider backing out. Fountain is already down. QC's low. That's a fairly decent push for them. They weren't able to finish out, but they got 2 turrets out of that, and that's enough to make up for the difference of Kraken's gold worth. And now they're going to make the risky play of going for that Crystal Sentry once again, and they will find it, but Arden is going to be the first to fall. Glaive is low, might be able to make it out there. Does get the Triad for a bit of healing, is staying around, looking for a chance to afterburn. Probably going to go into Angry Die, but instead just going straight onto Baron, and Baron able to turn around just barely. But Spaghetti still in this fight with this sustain, but it's not going to be enough to go through the burst of Angry Die, or is it? Is it? As he turns around, and he is so low, but he is out there. Spaghetti, turn around and leave. No, no Spaghetti. He's gonna go for it, but it's too late as the side of Eanix had backed. That would have been amazing to see, but you know, Spaghetti's gameplay, especially on this Samuel already, is amazing enough. 304. And doing a great job at it. But Eanix have done a good job to retaliate from that and pick up on the mistakes of Infamous. Infamous trying to be greedy there. They managed to get the Crystal Sentry. So even in death, you know, it's not that bad, because now then, I believe, was it the last, or they have one more Crystal Sentry?
That's the last one. Crystal Sentry was eliminated for the side of Team Eanix. But then we do see Travis is really just lacking on farm. He needs his double Tyrant's monocle at this point in time. He's just sitting on one Tyrant one Sorrow, and one Tension Bow, and that is not enough damage. Granted, it is bursting the entirety of Infamous down if they are not careful, but it is just not enough damage at this point in time in the game, at least. He needs second Tyrant's Monaco. He needs to be out there. After an Ordain, he needs to follow up, maybe not with the Jump Jet, but at least a basic attack, just so, you can do enough damage in the game itself and not just be so passive, because passive is that's going to kill you, because you're going to see QC just flanking you from the back and taking you out almost immediately with, a few basic attacks. So that is something that you have to consider as a Baron. Granted, you have your Jump Jets, and a lot of Barons out there that I've seen usually just engage with their Jump Jets. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm going to quote Grace here. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it's wrong. Because there's so much more utility for Jump Jets than just for engagement. You can use it as a reflex block. It's like Tarkus Chiton, except for the fact that you take damage. Yeah? But then you can use it to reposition yourself as a reflex block, and even just to run away, as a tool to run away. But if you're going to dive in with that Jump Jets, then it leaves you super vulnerable, and your basic attacks is only 2, whereas Glaive can just constantly rain down damage in your face, and then you've got no answer to that, especially with a Poison Shift picked up on Glaive, and on top of that, double Tyrant's Monaco, and of course a Sorrow Blade. So Glaive has got the sustain, Glaive has got the damage as well. What are you going to do about him?
It's quite a problem there. You saw, luckily, in that last situation, Baron was able to turn around onto Glaive, but it's not always going to end up like that. Unfortunately, if Baron gets afterburned into a wall, he is probably dead. But if he gets afterburned away where he has a chance to possibly run, he might have that kind of, the spacing between them to turn around and get those shots off that are needed. Because we know that Baron is quite a strong hero in the late game, if not one of the strongest. So, I won't count him out just yet, but it is going to be tough, and it's always on his mind, because they don't know where Quisi is right now. Quisi just hiding up in that brush, actually making the rotation down early. It's going to find I Angry You Die. It might just have to go for that as SNK jumps in there with him. There's going to be the Crucible going off as well, and the Fountain for the side of Infamous. So they're putting everything into this fight. Meanwhile, Samuel left unchecked, and we saw how healthy Samuel was at the end of the fight last time. There's going to be Arcane Passage, Rubber Monkey doing what they can to escape from this one, but you're just leading them closer to the Kraken, which, Infamous deciding they don't even need it at this point. They're just going to go straight into the base with 35 seconds left on I Angry You Die, aced up minions, and they're going to push this one through for the win.
Yep, as Infamous is pushing into the base of Eanix, just running their base down, I must pull the attention of the viewers to Spaghetti's build. Instead of going another crystal item, we do see an Eve of Harvest, a broken mid, and then an Aegis, and of course, to counter that Samuel, we do see double Metal Jacket being picked up on the side of Spaghetti. So I think it's new, but it kind of worked out for him, because Spaghetti was just tanking so much damage coming up from the Baron. And although Baron has got the armor pierce from the Tension Bow, but it did almost no damage onto Spaghetti. And QC, like I said, whenever you go up against a Baron, you try to match the Baron stat for stat. And QC did just that. He has double Tyrant's Monaco, he has a Poison Shift, he has a Sorrow Blade, and then possibly building into a Tornado Trigger. If not, then triple Tyrant's Monaco. So good job on the part of QC to try to burst Baron down almost immediately. I mean, we did see one afterburn in, and he touched Baron for a bit, and Baron immediately fell. And that is the bane of Baron, no defense. But then if you want to go up against a Glaive that has got so much sustain, and on top of that, with a Poison Shift as well, just nullifying and making your Lara useless, the Imperial Sigil useless, you're gonna be in for a hard time.
And I mean, it really comes down to they kind of countered, and it's what we're seeing a lot of, countered dive comp with dive comp. And it's the reason, it works for them against that Baron, because that's what you really need going alongside Baron. But on the side of Eanix, they didn't exactly have enough of that. However, we'll have to see how they draft it in the next match, because draft is ready. So without further ado, let's go into the draft.
Right, so we are into the draft right now, and I hope both of these teams would actually prioritize Baron at this point in time. Anyways, just to update the viewers, the side of Infamous is on the blue side, and of course, Eanix is on the red side. I think if they do not ban out or pick out the Baron, if they do not ban out the Baron at least, the side of Infamous might just go for it and then show how Baron should be played. I mean, we've seen Infamous play Baron, and they played it really, really well as well. They know how to utilize all their item spikes, especially when they get the Sorrow Blade, when they get the Tension Bow. They know where the item spikes, they know where the level spikes are. But, you know, I'm not doubting the abilities coming out from the side of Eanix. They are a really good team as well. I mean, we've got big names coming from Eanix as well. We've got Angry Die, we have Trophies. So these are big names coming into Eanix. So they are going to ban out both sustain and both healers on the foes right now. The next best sustain and healer will be Adagio, but it's kind of niche pick anyways. Infamous will settle for the Catherine in case the side of Eanix do pick up that Baron. Catherine is just such a solid counter in the Baron. You make him burn his jump jet. If not, then you silence him out and you make him basically useless. Granted, you use your basic attack, but jump jet is a huge hit of Baron anyways. So, you know, with the Merciless Pursuit, with the silence, you can lock a Baron down. So I don't think Eanix would want to go for the Baron at this point in time. Probably pick up, say, another roamer like that of Arden, but even then an Arden would be countered by Catherine, as long as the Catherine can stun him out of his gauntlet or even just silence him and just hard engage onto Arden. One thing about Arden is that when you throw your gauntlet down to initiate, problem is that you expose yourself to a lot of incoming damage as well. And then Catherine, on the other hand, has got a Storm Guard that can soak up a lot of damage while still being able to initiate with the Merciless Pursuit, with the Blast Tremor for your allies to follow up. We do see Arden being picked up for the side of Eanix. What do you think the side of Eanix will ban?
Well, it looks like they go for that Glaive ban there, which you saw how much of a problem Glaive was to their Baron comp. So they really don't want Glaive coming into this situation, and for good reason that Glaive has been picked up so far in generally the first pick stage, because he is that real versatile hero. And instead here they have gone for their own support, as you said, going for that Arden, which does provide a bit of, you know, vulnerabilities, but maybe in the end, it's going to help out whatever team comp they go here, as they'll have the Vanguard available to get whoever they choose as their carry out of any tough spots, or if they happen to have a squishy jungler. But in the current meta we're seeing, I believe it's going to be a jungler that's either able to tank or sustain. They do go for that Samuel, and if they put that Samuel in the jungle, which is most likely, you know, it's going to be a good sustain jungler that they've picked up there.
Well, yeah, I do agree with you. Samuel is a good pickup just to hinder the side of Infamous from picking up the Samuel, but we do see from Infamous they picked up the meta laner right now, and that would be Idris. Idris is really strong against any laner out there. Granted, you have a bit of problem going up against a Gwen in the early game, but otherwise, you generally would have no problems as well. So Idris is a really good pickup. I really like the pickup on Idris, but then just to close the comp out, I hope to see a Sky, just to be there. If not, then Crystal's Kestrel, which can just outpoke a Samuel, which we do see a Crystal Kestrel. Or maybe a Weapon Kestrel and then a Crystal Idris.
But yeah, looking like it's more going to be that Weapon Power Idris, I believe. You can't count it out, but just I feel like it might be more leaning towards that. In this current setup, and they go the Grumpjaw pick, which now we're going to know that Samuel is more likely to be in that lane, and it's going to be Grumpjaw in that jungle. And this is not a dive comp for once, at least on the side of Infamous. They might be sticking to something that could still be considered dive with the Catherine and the Idris, but it's not your kind of real meta dive. And then on the side of Eanix, they have something that, yeah, you have that Grumpjaw who can go in, but I think it's really going to rely on Samuel being on the back line for that damage, and them picking out those key targets. in this situation, I am looking at the side of Eanix's team comp, and I think they've drafted that one pretty well. What do you think?
I personally like the team comp coming out from the side of Infamous. Only reason is because I've seen them on this Castro, whether CP, whether weapon, they know how to utilize this Castro to its best extent. And of course, the more reliable roamer right now, of course, it's Arden, but then you cannot discount the fact that Catherine has got so much in her kit. And of course, Idris in the late game can counter Samuel. Whether or not Idris goes weapon or crystal is a reliable counter into Samuel, because Idris can just stick to Samuel so well. And of course, you have the Grumjaw coming up from the side of Eanix that you cannot look past and look over. Problem is that you have the Castro out there that can output range damage onto your Grumjaw, and that way you will start losing your living armor, and that would be a problem for Grumjaw, because Grumjaw generally, we are going to see a lane Grumjaw after all. Buying that book of eulogies and of course in some armor, and we are going to see I Angry You Die on the Crystal Samuel in the jungle. I mean, it's possible. It'd
be the first rotation, but yeah, you're right. It is possible that this weapon-powered Grumjaw could harass Queasy like that, especially with the help of Vanguard coming out from the Arden on the side of Eanix, and they're doing a good job so far. So, I mean, why not if it works? But I'd be a bit worried about when that Idris starts getting to late game and able to do a lot of damage. But then again, Idris is always going to have to be looking for in the team fights, perhaps the Samuel to dive onto. You're not really going to be able to burn through a character like that Grumjaw.
Well, yeah, and that is really just down to Castro's job, because living armor is a thing, right? So Grumjaw gets generally his defense from there. Because in the early game, Grumjaw would not want to build out a lot of defense, because you have your items to prioritize. Your items are not exactly the cheapest in the fold as well. I mean, Tension Bow is really cheap, don't get me wrong, but then Double Tyrant's Monaco, it is a thing. It is really expensive. We do see Samuel coming up to lane at level 2.
And making a good push out of it, making sure SNK backs off there. And so far, SNK doing a good job for those stacks on the Captain's Guard, having 4 already, make that 5 as they land another Merciless Pursuit. It's going to be Kestrel getting a bit cheeky here, trying to go into the enemy jungle. Doesn't have the energy for the invisibility, so instead decided to just go in with the Glimmer shots, which might have worked out if there's a 1v1 situation, but you now found yourself with Arden, and you are going to fall for first blood over to the side of Eanix. So now that opens up I Angry You Die's opportunity to just go and steal some farm right back. And I'm not sure, did you see how much Kestrel was able to take? Because it might not even be worth for Kestrel to have gone in there. But Infamous, with the response, Queasy is going to go down in there, and it's still going to go over to I Angry You Die.
Well, I personally did not see how much Castro took, but I personally do not think that it is at all worth it. I think what Castro only took was the mids, and afterwards she was caught out. I'm not too sure. I wasn't looking at the minimap. Ooh, but Trophies may be in a little trouble right now. I mean, we do see Glimmer shots at this point in time, just putting out a lot of damage and then shredding through that living armor as well. And right now, Trophies cannot be in a front line like that of QC, just holding on to lane, just farming, taking up CS, because he lacks the living armor. So, the side of Infamous, they've got a good comp. Ooh, QC is being taken low.
As we see Queasy getting jumped on there, there's going to be the fountain to keep it not... No, I'm wrong. That was probably the protector contract. A bit early for fountain there, I request to do. Getting a bit ahead of myself, especially with the way they're playing, I believe, is, always lane focused, but the Samuel has been up in lane so much early on, and for good reason, able to pick up that second kill for the team and almost a third. Quite able to take out SNK, but Spaghetti gonna be able to rotate up here and trying to get I Angry You Die, but needs to be careful. Oh, Truffy's going in with an amazing charge, able to get the kill, and that isn't going to be the ace as Idris returns, but is definitely going to be a lot in favor of Eanix there.
Yeah, that is the delayed ace for the side of Eanix. And Eanix's team comp just coming into the early game is just so much stronger. Like I said earlier on, I Angry You Die on that Samuel just needs the level 2, and that is your first and initial power spike. With that Drifting Dark, your Malice and Verdict is going to hurt. like hell. And then, of course, you have Travis on a Grum job, putting yourself in lane. You get your tension bow so much earlier on. And then, as compared to an Idris being in lane, Idris needs that Sorrow Blade, needs all of that. Basically, Sorrow Blade is just so much more expensive as compared to your tension bow. Thus, you're going to put out so much damage, especially the setup in it's going to put out so much damage in the early game. And we did see as well, Spaghetti at this point in time is just running into a lot of energy issues as compared to Iron Gyudai, and just look at how low Spaghetti is being taken just by one empowered Malice and Birdie.
Definitely Eanix with the power spike here at the moment, having the item advantage and level advantage. Going into this one, you can see Iron Gyudai already on that ultimate, but I'm sure Spaghetti not too far behind, but it might not matter if they get killed here. Rubber Monkey gonna go in and manage to get the kill. It's gonna be Truffy's falling off, and that's actually in favor of Infamous there, able to get 2 for 1, but you can see Iron Gyudai not afraid right now because he does have the damage and sustain to stay in this one. Does need to be cautious, however, of the Catherine, because if you get locked down, it could be an easy chuck rim on, but it does miss. And it's going to be Iron Gyudai just clearing this one out as Truffy's makes his way back to lane to finish it off there.
Yeah, but this one...
looking... Yep. Looking over to the build so far, no one has defense. It is just damage all around, and everyone is trying to match the other team's damage. And that's how it's going to play out as we see Quisi jumping in to defend that turret, and it's going to be Spaghetti getting caught out by that scout trap, so they know he's coming, but already Samuel taking so much from those glimmer shots and needs to be careful here. They need to respect the damage on the side of Eanix. They do have the advantage right now, but as I mentioned before, Infamous not backing off on those damage items either.
Well, yeah, I mean, Infamous has got no reason to build any sort of defenses if they are positioned right. I mean, just look at the amount of siege potential coming up from Spaghetti on that Castro. If you cannot get kills, just go for turret anyways. Just look at the amount of damage, and turret is down at 6 minutes. Not the fastest turret we've seen so far, but it was all down to Spaghetti roaming up. Whereas Iron Gyudai, whenever he roams up, he can get kills, but then objective is a problem for him, especially for Grumjoy as well. I mean, if they get close enough to the turret, they might be able to, but then Spaghetti on that Castro can just poke from afar.
And we see them now trying to get that return turret. It's going to be Samuel to cap it, and then Spaghetti, seeing on the backlines here, still hasn't shown themselves too much, is going to do a massive damage with those glimmer shots and putting the whole team of Eanix very low. SNK going in for the merciless pursuit, just trying to find whoever they can at the moment, but Angry Udai doing a great job of staying in that drifting dart, trying to put some return damage out. However, in the end, it's going to be Infamous picking up that kill onto SNK, and Infamous able to do a pretty good turnaround here from what was an initial good start from Eanix.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Eanix did take a return turret, so whatever hard work they've put out in the early stages just to take the turret in 6 minutes, in the end, it doesn't even matter. Was it too soon? Was it too soon? Was it pun too soon? But anyways, they did manage to take the gold mine for the side of Infamous, so that would put them, just 500 gold ahead of Team Eanix. I think that pun was too soon, isn't it? Too soon.
That was on my mind, but focus on this game as we reach the 8-minute mark, and these teams are even practically. Objective-wise, yes, Infamous was able to take that gold mine, but it doesn't mean much if you look at the gold at the moment. They're 18k to 18.4k now to 18.1, which I'm sure will change after they clear that wave that's been pushed in. So if anything, Infamous getting that gold mine was to set them even at this point with Eanix. And now it's really, where do they go from here? Because you look at the builds and you see Frostburn on Samuel. It's a good first pickup, especially in that Drifting Dark slows them down. But Infamous aren't going to stop here. They have the damage. They're going to go straight onto that turret. And it's going to be Truffy's to dive onto Catherine. Does use the stuff to pick him up. Throws him into the gauntlet. Great positioning there in a real tough spot for them to escape. There's going to be Oblivion going down by Angry Udai. It's not going to get anyone asleep. But Quisi is still at full health there, looking for a fight. Needs to be careful once Drifting Dark is back up by Angry Udai, because Eanix could have a strong push here. They have the advantage in health at the moment, and Truffy's is going to be the one to go in, but Quisi just going to jump back from that for a moment. And we see Spaghetti going into the jungle, going to come back regen, but they need to be careful that they don't let their teammates die while they're gone. Eanix making the right choice here to back off, however. They realize that that pursuit isn't really going to get them anywhere.
Well, and there's one thing, Spaghetti right now, I mean, he has the damage. Castro has got the damage. Problem is that she is running into a lot of energy issues, like I was mentioning earlier on, and that's why, you know, the side of Infamous have to constantly back off. There was nothing that the side of Infamous could do because of the lack of energy coming out from the side of this Castro, and that would mean as a Crystal Castro you would not have damage as well. So you know that would pose as a problem. I hope Spaghetti will be quickly getting that clockwork as fast as possible, just so he can get in that energy regen.
And we see another possible fight breaking out. Struffy's goes in with the stuff, able to pick up that Catherine. Not sure if that's where you want them on the back line. Catherine is quite tanky and might be able to turn around with Merciless Pursuit, but they were able to trade out a fair amount of damage. But look at Truffy's now being forced to back. They're not really making anything happen from these engagements on the side of Eanix. And I think I'm just waiting for Infamous to kind of make their move and just kind of explode.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have what it takes. They have the damage. They are just going to go for objectives at this point in time. Like I said earlier on, if you cannot get the turret, at least try your best to push your...
Oh my, massive damage coming out from Spaghetti as Samuel getting caught in that active camo into the Glimmer shot and just, it's why I said, exploded. They got exploded. And there's going to be the one-shot one kill does land onto Truff. He's doing a decent amount of damage. Anything's going to help when pushing this next turret in. And there's Infamous making that move. And they're really, it's been a slower game, definitely. But it's not lacking on damage. Both teams have it. They're just being very respectful and cautious of each other, waiting for the right fights.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a rather slow game. But problem is that, you know, as Samuel, you kind of lag out in the later part of the game, especially when you have a CP Castro that is definitely not going to go for defense. Just look at Spaghetti's build. He has went for double shatter glass, going into the clockwork, and then of course for Idris would be the only one that has got defense. And you know, Graham Jaw should honestly just stuff out Spaghetti as and when he can. I mean out Spaghetti as and when he can. Ooh, another engage might break out right now, but they are just going to reset. And the only reason being because Spaghetti, when taking damage, CP Castro cannot go in these at all. So that is one thing that's going for you, right? If you're going to stuff him out, and then if you take out QC first and then SNK, and when Spaghetti gets vomited out again, you can easily take him out anyways. So that is a target, of course. But then granted, when you stuff Spaghetti, SNK can just stun you out of it, and that would be a problem as well, because then you really have got no answer anyways. So it is really just double-edged sword. It's quite a dilemma for the side.
Oh my, just look at this Kestrel, the positioning there, waiting for a moment to just get them caught out, but doesn't even need the active camo as they're going to go in on the back of Queasy with the damage on those Glimmer shots. And Queasy will fall, but they're able to pick up 2 kills. They might even find Arden if they can get to him. 1 shot, 1 kill, not quite up. And I think Arden will make it back to base before he even gets up. Even if it were to land, he's surely tanky enough to get out from that one. But you can see Infamous starting to crawl back, and they're making, I guess it wasn't really ever too much in favor of Eanix. There was that initial start, but now Eanix kind of a bit stuck on how to engage onto this enemy team.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned before, they really want to go for Spaghetti, but it's such a hard target when they're invisible all the time. So they're really going to have to rely on vision in this case, I believe. If Rubber Monkey can get the vision down, he's buying the flares, but you need the scout traps as well, which you can see him picking up now, and he's going to go place those around. Kestrel might get caught out by this one, and they might be able to turn it around. However, Idris is there on the return, and they're able to back off from that.
Well, yeah, I mean, strategic flares, yeah, would make so much more sense as compared to Scout Trap, because Scout Trap, if you buy like 5 of it, that's 250 gold down the drain. Oh, Spaghetti might be caught out right now.
Right. They get the active camo off with the Glimmer Shot. They're going to go invisible instantly once again. Great plan as Idris going to jump onto the Samuel. He might not have the damage, and it's actually going to be Samuel able to turn her around, and Truffy's is still full health. No, I take that back. Fairly low health, but still alive, still kicking, but needs to be careful of jumping into this active camo. I Angry You dies so low, just running away, doing the best they can. They get stunned up, and it's going to be Kestrel over the wall with a Glimmer. No, denied. Romas with the kills for days. Let's actually check. It's actually 4 of the kills. 4 of the kills on Rubber Monkey for the side of Eanix when I make that point. So, yeah.
So, yeah, indeed. I mean, Romas need kills. If you think about it, how else are we going to buy our fountains and crystals? Yeah?
If a cheap change in my pocket, you filthy Roma.
Anyways, back in this...
It's like the master race and console peasants. In this case, you know, Romas can be the peasants, but no, I love Romas. A good Roma is always amazing to have. And yeah, in this case, I think, you know, SNK has done their job. They have 34 stacks on that guard. So that's going to apply a lot more armor. Do you remember the number on that one?
Yeah, I mean 34 would be equal to say 68 stacks.
Okay, so it's just 10. No,
2 times.
Yeah. 2 armor per stack. That's the change they made.
Yeah.
Into this patch, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was in 2.5 that they made the change. It's 2 armor and shield per stack. So there you go. So Catherine is just so much tankier in the late game. Especially, you know, there used to be the saying where you must get at least 1 stack every minute or 2 stacks every minute. But then if you do get 2 stacks every minute, which Catherine is doing a perfect job at doing,
it's going to be the Gauntlet going down, and it's going to be Grumjaw diving in there, but taking so much damage in return. I Angry You die. Where are you going? You're running away from your base, but Rubber Monkey's going to use the Gauntlet to try get you out there. Just a second, but Queasy going to be able to find you, and there's the 1-shot 1-kill as well, landing onto you. You're not getting out there, and it's going to be Kestrel pushing into the base with that Kraken. Even if they follow up, because Queasy is going to have the dash to jump onto him, just like that. There's going to be the ace, and that's probably going to be the game coming out from Infamous with a great Kraken push, and just being able to split up the team comp like that. Grumjaw diving in, trying to do what he could before, and you see it happening again, just isn't able to get the damage down because he gets stunned up, and there's so much return damage coming out from the side of Infamous. There's barely any defense, and you're right, that Kestrel, none at all. But Queasy, you know, a bit of defense there on the Aegis and the mail jacket coming out there. They want to be curved plates, not quite into the mail jacket yet, but they want to be able to dive into those fights as a weapon power Idris and stay alive, and just be able to do the proc damage that they were able to get down. And in the end, that fight goes over to Infamous. That game goes over to Infamous, and overall the match 2-0. And anything you'd like to add to that in terms of the builds?
I mean, in terms of build-wise,